The fog over London in 1888 was a thick, grey beast, smelling of coal smoke, damp wool, and the River Thames. For Arthur Penhaligon, a young man of 20, it was the only air he had ever truly known. An orphan raised by the parish, his world was a 10-block radius of soot-stained tenements and the relentless clatter of the textile mill where he worked 12 hours a day for a handful of shillings. His existence was a simple, brutal equation of survival. Money came in, and money went out, for a cramped room he shared with 3 others. For a stale loaf of bread. For the occasional pint of cheap ale that momentarily washed away the grime of his reality. He never thought of saving, for there was nothing left to save. Life was a leaky bucket, his effort was the water, and it all drained away by week's end. One Tuesday, after a particularly grueling shift, Arthur found himself with a single, solitary penny in his pocket. It was his last coin until payday on Friday. A gnawing hunger clawed at his stomach. The sensible thing was to buy a small heel of bread to see him through the next day. But as he stood before the bakery, the warm, sweet smell of it mocking his poverty, a different thought slithered into his mind, a thought born of desperation. In a nearby pub, a man named Silas, known for his flashy waistcoat and dubious schemes, had been boasting of a sure thing, a horse race. A long shot, he'd said, but with odds that could turn a pauper into a prince. The race was tomorrow. Arthur's heart pounded. A lifetime of toil stretched before him, a grey, featureless road. What if this was his one chance to leap off that road? The baker's boy was staring at him. Arthur's hand trembled as he clutched the coin. "This is foolishness," a small voice whispered, but another, louder voice roared back, "Is this life any better?" He turned from the bakery. The coin, his last coin, felt heavy with a desperate hope. He found Silas, who laughed at the single penny. "You can't bet a penny, lad, but I'll tell you what, I'll loan you £1 against your next 3 weeks' wages." A friendly gesture. The interest was monstrous, but Arthur didn't see it. He saw only the finish line and a horse named Stardust. He took the loan, placed the bet, and for one night, he dreamed of a different life. The next day, Stardust came in last. The crash was absolute. Arthur lost the £1, and with it, his next 3 weeks of wages. Silas's friendly gesture turned ugly. The moneylender's threats were real. The foreman at the mill, having been paid by Silas, fired Arthur for his debt. Within a week, he was evicted, jobless, and utterly broken. He had gambled his meager existence away, and now he had nothing. Not even a last coin. For days, Arthur wandered the streets, sleeping in alleyways, his hunger a constant, throbbing pain. The despair was a physical weight, pressing down on him, suffocating him. He saw now that his poverty wasn't just a lack of money. It was a poverty of thought. He had looked for a miracle, a shortcut, because he didn't believe he had the power to build a path himself. He had seen money as something to be won, not earned or created. That was the thinking that had led him here, to the gutter. One rainy afternoon, shivering and soaked, he took shelter in the doorway of a small, dusty bookshop. An old man with kind eyes and a cascade of white hair swept the entrance. He didn't shoo Arthur away. Instead, he looked at the young man's hollowed face and asked a simple question. "Are you looking for an escape, or a foundation?" Arthur, startled, could only stammer, I don't know, sir." The man, whose name was Mr. Alistair Finch, beckoned him inside. The shop was a sanctuary of quiet and the scent of old paper. "Most people in your position want an escape," Mr. Finch said softly, handing Arthur a mug of hot tea. "A winning lottery ticket, an unexpected inheritance." They want the fruit without planting the tree. A foundation. That is harder work. It is the slow, patient work of laying one brick at a time. Arthur drank the tea, the warmth spreading through his frozen limbs. He told Mr. Finch everything, the mill, the coin, the disastrous bet. He expected judgment, but the old man only nodded. You didn't lose because you bet on a horse, Mr. Finch said, his voice gentle but firm. You lost long before that. You believed that your only asset was your physical labor, and that its value was fixed by your employer. You saw money as the goal. That is the mindset of the poor. The wealthy understand a different truth. Your greatest asset is your mind. And money is not a goal, but a tool. It is a consequence of the value you create. Value? Arthur asked, the word foreign on his tongue. I'm a mill worker. I have no skills. Nonsense, Mr. Finch countered. You have time. You have a mind capable of learning. You are simply uninvested. You spend your time to earn a wage, but you have never invested your time to increase your own worth. There is a profound difference. He made Arthur a proposal. I need help cleaning and organizing this shop. The work is unpaid. Arthur's face fell. However, Mr. Finch continued, your payment will not be in shillings, but in knowledge. You may sleep in the back room, and you may read any book in this shop. You will invest your time not for mere survival, but for growth. That, young man, is the greatest investment you will ever make. It was a lifeline. Arthur accepted without hesitation. For the first time, he had a purpose that wasn't tied to the next meal. He swept floors, dusted shelves, and organized ledgers, and every night, by the light of a single candle, he read. He didn't start with grand philosophy. He started with the basics. He read a book on simple accounting, learning how numbers told a story of profit and loss. He read about craftsmen, about supply and demand. He read about the burgeoning industries in America, steel, railroads, manufacturing, a land where it seemed a man was measured more by his ambition than his birth. His thinking began to shift. He was no longer a victim of his circumstances. He was a student of them. He saw the world not as a set of rules he had to obey, but as a system he could understand. The poor mindset worries about spending the last coin. The rich mindset thinks about how to turn that coin into two. Not through luck, but through value. After 6 months, Arthur went to Mr. Finch. Sir, I have learned much about bookkeeping. I see how small businesses struggle because they don't understand their own finances. I believe I can help them. Mr. Finch smiled. You have found your value. Arthur began offering his services to the local greengrocers and butchers. He didn't ask for much. Just a few pence to tidy their ledgers in the evenings. For the first time, he was earning money not with his hands, but with his mind. He wasn't just trading hours for shillings, he was trading knowledge for income. It was a revelation. He saved every penny. He didn't deprive himself, but he was disciplined. He knew what every coin was for, a ticket to a new life. The allure of a quick gamble was gone, replaced by the quiet satisfaction of a well-executed plan. After a year, he had saved enough for a one-way passage to New York. On the day he left, he went to thank Mr. Finch. The old man gave him a small, leather-bound journal. Write down your lessons, he advised. Success is not a destination. It is a process of continuous learning. As a parting gift, Mr. Finch pressed a single, shiny shilling into his hand. Your first investment capital. Arthur clutched the coin. This was his new, last coin. But it felt entirely different from the desperate penny he had once held. That penny was a prayer, this shilling was a plan. America was a cacophony of noise, energy, and brutal competition. His English accent and lack of connections made finding work difficult. He was tempted to take a laborer's job at the docks just to survive. But then he remembered Mr. Finch's words about foundations. He walked into a small German bakery. The owner, a portly man named Mr. Schmidt, looked harassed, his desk overflowing with receipts and unpaid bills. I am looking for work, Arthur began. We have no work, Schmidt grunted without looking up. Arthur took a breath. Sir, I can see you are a master baker. Your bread is the talk of the neighborhood. But your books, they seem to be a source of stress. Allow me to organize them. For 1 week, for free. Schmidt looked up, intrigued. Free? Yes, Arthur said with a confidence he didn't know he possessed. I will invest my time to prove my value. If, at the end of the week, you do not find my work valuable, you owe me nothing, and I will be on my way. If you do, We can discuss a fair wage. It was a proposition the baker couldn't refuse. For a week, Arthur worked tirelessly. He didn't just record numbers, he analyzed them. He showed Mr. Schmidt how the cost of flour had risen, and how a small price adjustment on his cakes could cover the difference without alienating customers. He identified which items sold best and when, suggesting a daily baking schedule that reduced waste. At the end of the week, Mr. Schmidt didn't just offer him a job, he offered him a partnership. You don't just see numbers, boy, the baker said, his voice thick with emotion. You see the story behind them. You have made my business stronger. This was Arthur's first real success, built not on luck, but on a foundation of knowledge and a clear demonstration of value. He continued to learn, to read, and to save, but he also learned the third pillar of wealth, relationships. He treated Mr. Schmidt's business as his own. He built trust with suppliers. He learned from other merchants on the street. He understood that time could be invested in learning, money could be invested for growth, and relationships could be invested in for opportunity. His reputation grew. Other small business owners sought his counsel. He was no longer just Arthur the bookkeeper, he was Mr. Penhaligon, the financial advisor. He saw a new opportunity. Many businesses needed his skills, but couldn't afford a full-time partner. This led to his next great leap. Using his savings, he opened a small consultancy, Penhaligon Financial Solutions. He hired 2 other young, ambitious clerks and taught them his methods. He was no longer just creating value himself, he was building a system that created value. Years passed. The boy who had slept in a London alleyway was now a man of means, the owner of a respected firm on Wall Street. He wasn't the richest man in New York, but he was wealthy in a way that truly mattered. He was financially free, master of his own destiny, and his success was built on a foundation of solid rock. One evening, as he sat in his spacious office overlooking the city's glittering lights, he reached into a small, locked drawer in his desk. He pulled out 2 coins. One was the dull, worn English penny he had found in a gutter all those years ago, a memento he'd later sought out as a reminder. The other was the shiny shilling Mr. Finch had given him. He held the penny in his left hand. This was the coin of the poor mindset, the coin of desperation, of hoping for a miracle, of wanting something for nothing. It represented a life spent reacting, a life at the mercy of circumstance. He held the shilling in his right hand. This was the coin of the wealthy mindset, the coin of intention, of planning, of investing in oneself. It represented a life of purpose, a life shaped by deliberate action. The coins were just metal. Their monetary value was negligible. But the thinking behind them, that was the difference between a life of poverty and a life of prosperity. It was the difference between being a leaf blown by the wind and being the captain of your own ship. His journey hadn't been about getting rich. It had been about becoming a person of value. The money was simply the consequence. He had learned that true financial education wasn't about secret formulas or risky schemes. It was about a fundamental shift in perspective. Invest in yourself first. Your knowledge is your greatest engine of wealth. Stop saving blindly and start creating value. Don't just work for money, make your skills work for you. Understand that time, money, and relationships are your 3 most precious forms of capital. Invest them wisely, with intention and a long-term vision. Arthur looked out at the sprawling city, a testament to the dreams and ambitions of millions. His story was just one among them, a quiet journey from a single, desperate coin to a life of abundance. He knew that for every young person feeling lost, trapped, and poor, the path forward began not with a stroke of luck, but with a simple, powerful choice. The choice to stop looking for an escape, and to start, brick by patient brick, building a foundation. The last coin was never the end, it was always the beginning. It was the question you asked yourself when you held it. What will I build with this?